Today we have one and only James Marshall in the house, and three beautiful ladies, and two men.
Yeah, it's the first podcast we've done with some ladies. Like, we're like a men's channel, but we really wanted to get the opinions of the girls and, you know, get some feminine energy on there. And yeah, it's an honor to have you here. Let's do a circle, and maybe you can like introduce yourselves and your name and, you know, a bit about yourself or something like that. So you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Lila. I live in Budapest. I'm Hungarian. Well, actually, I'm 20 years old and I'm a university student.
And what do you like doing for fun?
Well, I have a lot of hobbies. I like singing, playing musical instruments, maybe. Yeah. For example, well, while I was in middle school, I had to play a lot of instruments. So I used to play on the violin, guitar, on the flute, and also on piano. Yeah. So these are the interesting facts about me, I guess.
Beautiful.
And you also do modeling, right?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Lovely. Guys, thank you so much for hosting us tonight. It's a pleasure, and honestly, it's been a topic that I wanted to talk about for a while. My name is Hadisha, but you can call me Disha. I'm a model myself. I'm a stylist / creative director, and yeah. So I love fashion, I love beauty, and just to create anything that I can visualize about it and all around, that's my passion.
Hi guys, I think you know me. I'm James Marshall, and I know I look like shit today. I just got off a flight from Rio. I haven't slept in multiple days. I think I had yellow fever, and then I accidentally took some very psychoactive substances earlier today because it said on the box that they're for sleeping. So I had the trippiest dream of my entire life, 10x on any ayahuasca trip I've ever had. I also run The Natural Lifestyles, the world's greatest seduction coaching company for men. I'm also a sex teacher and an olive farmer and a flute player. Oh, yeah. And many other things which I can't remember right now. Good to be here.
You look good.
Thank you.
Hi guys, so thank you so much for hosting us, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Shaba, I'm 23 years old. I'm a model myself as well for 10 years now, and next to that I'm an account manager in, well, basically in the coming industry, so I'm really intrigued about today's topic. And yeah, what I love, everything that is fun. I'm a hedonist myself, so anything that makes me feel good, I love it.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah, we would like to start the topic.
Hang on a minute.
Oh yeah, hello. Yeah, my name is Sun. Hanging out with Sun is fun. Well, I live life. I breathe air. Life is good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for accepting the invite and coming here.
Right on.
I'm Harry, Mr. Harry. I also play the flute now. I've got a Banzori flute.
Oh, that's hard to play.
It's, like, you've got to use like
with
your
the pads.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna show it to you at
microtones
some
and
point.
stuff.
But you can do half notes on it. But I've got like an Indian flute player now, so like do my video calls. I'm learning like Indian music.
Yeah.
I'm a musician. I do all sorts of little businesses, and I do all sorts of different things. I'm an adventurer. I've not been on that many adventures recently, but I did travel a lot and been to a lot of temples and traveled around India on a bike on my own, and I've lived a very interesting life so far. And yeah, like it's really good to have you guys here and have like a nice mixture of people and like a big panel, and I'm really looking forward to this as well. So
we're going to start a flute trio, right? Finally.
That's a great band.
We're finally going to make it. There's definitely a market for that.
So like we brought you here, James. We know you've been working
This is my
really
house,
hard.
by the way. So
Oh yeah, this is James's house. Welcome.
We'll
Thank
give you a
you
tour later.
Thank you to the house.
Gorgeous.
And James. So like we brought you here because the sex class is super interesting, and we wanted to also find out a lot about what you've been up to, why you created this course, kind of what gave you the ideas and where you like got the experience from, and could you like give us a little like introduction to what you've been working on and, you know, what you do in regards to the sexual Education, kung fu.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Where do we start this one? Well, I've always been a freak and a pervert since I was a young boy. Very, very curious about women and sexuality and wanted to learn everything, and have always been really focused in on understanding individual women and making their experiences as uniquely amazing as is possible. Because I'm a top, I'm not a dom, so I'm someone that is dominant, but who I guess I get off on female pleasure. I've never said that before, but yeah, I think that's basically it.
What's a top and what's a dom, just for like newbies out there?
Right. Well, okay, we'll get straight into that. So,
Yeah.
well, in the BDSM world, which I'm not actually a kinkster, like I'm not someone who particularly likes dungeons or any of that kind of thing. I've learned a lot from those kind of people because they have extremely good skills and really good communication and consent. So I learn a lot from them, but I don't like the aesthetic of it. I'm not a fetishist. I'm not someone who is really part of those kind of scenes. But I've learned a lot from them. And so you have different types of sexualities and massive broad spectrum of it. So dominant and submissive does not in any way cover all the types of sexuality out there, but for simplicity's sake, we'll look at that. So there are different types of dominance and there are different types of subs, and there are switches and all sorts of variations in between. So you just a few options. You have an authoritarian dom, who's the stern one, who barks orders and it's about force and impact and power, let's say. And then you have more kind of sensual dominance, which would be the type that I'm generally. I guess I'm pretty adaptable, which is taking command, taking the lead, holding space and creating context for females or your partner of whatever gender to experience what they want to experience. And that being the paradox of the dom-sub relationship is that the dom, if it's clean and healthy, is serving the submissive. So it's the sub that actually sets the limits and creates, like within the context of communication, creates the variety of things you're going to play with, and then the dom is in charge of activating it, let's say. And then you would say a top is someone who is dominant, but is not a sadist. Like I have no sadistic tendencies at all. I have no hatred or anger towards women at all. I've burnt that out of me many years ago. So yeah, if you were watching it, it might look the same. It might look super authoritarian. There might, in terms of what the play is happening, but the intention and the vibe is different. Right? So it's like, yeah, as I said, it's like I don't actually get off on any of this shit. Like it's not like I have no fetishes at all, except probably that to serve women's pleasure in some kind of way. And it's not selfless, by the way. I get a lot out of that because when you activate a woman, she feels safe, she feels she has trust, and she can express herself. Then you're going to get the best out of her. What was the question?
And then that was like the side tangent, and then like back to the question was like, you just explaining how you came up with the sex course and
right. Oh, that was just a preamble.
Yeah.
And you can expect quite a lot of that today.
Yeah.
Well, so I've been teaching dating and seduction courses since 2009 or 8 or something. Started in Melbourne, Australia, moved over to Europe 2012. Got kind of big in the scene, and with a highly specialized and professional team, have been bouncing around the world for years teaching these workshops. Inevitably, because essentially it's like for guys that don't know how to go and talk to girls, teaching them how to do that, how to get on dates, how to have good dates, through to the bedroom, and then whatever happens after that, good luck. And so inevitably guys were like, well, what happens after that? And then I'm like, well, I know quite a bit about this. And so I started informally kind of adding at the end of workshops, doing like little sex like tutorials, let's say, and just, I'm like, all right, guys, what do you want to know? And they'd give me a list of things. I'm like, all right, we talk about this. And then, and there was a girl in the house. I'm like, hey, come over here. Can we just demo this one thing on you? And then eyes light up. And then over time, myself, this wasn't just me, myself, Shay Matthews, and Sir Dominic, who is Australia's highest paid professional dominant. So he's paid by women to do horrible things to them. And he was a buddy of ours. And so I learned quite a lot of like more of the extreme kink stuff of him. And eventually the three of us got together, I don't know, some years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago or something, and decided to build the world's most comprehensive and detailed and hands-on sex course, which we did. And then we sold it to a bunch of our like VIP clients to beta test it out. We brought a bunch of attractive and super open girls that we know quite a lot of that type of lady in and paid them well, and then the guys got to practice everything, not penetrative, well, except under some specific context, but lots of stuff they got to actually practice hands-on. And so this, we found, would turn a guy who was completely vanilla, has no idea how to have sex beyond 3 positions, and you're supposed to lick a girl or something, to beasts in a week, because they actually got to practice it in real time. And so we're like, okay, we're onto something here. So then we've been running that, unfortunately, because of the pandemic and the lockdown in Australia. Dom was locked in Australia for a couple of years, so me and Shay took it over. And then we've been doing that for private, like 1%er groups. So we get a lot of like super wealthy guys hire us to. We're about to do that this week, where we have to sign NDAs because they're some big fish. So we do those kind of private groups, and then we do one for our clients once a year. It's very expensive, and most people can't afford it. And so recently I decided to turn it or adapt it into a digital product, which Adam and I spent the last 8 months locked in this house with girls.
Adam, guy in the back.
Yes, shout out to Adam.
I've seen things that I'll never forget.
We're locked in this house for months filming this course, and recently released it, and it's kicking ass, and dudes are fucking loving it on the chats, because I've never had clients they were always single, all my clients, and I'll shut up in a minute, guys. But for the first time ever, we got a whole bunch of married guys and guys with girlfriends signed up, and so on the chats they're like so cute. So it's like, had a great fingering session with the missus last night. Thanks for that, James. I'm like, oh my god, wow, that's so weird, cool. So yeah, it's having incredible ripple effects, and the guys and their ladies are having awesome sex as a result. So I'm very pleased. There you go. That's it in a nutshell.
Saving marriages from divorces. That's great.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you girls have like any questions like to James about the course or anything that pops up?
I just have a question about the top. So what is the top again? I didn't quite get that.
Well, it's essentially that, like, often dominance, it's really part of their sexuality, right? In the sense that, like, having authority and power over someone, and maybe with like an aspect of sadism in it, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, because there are masochists who like sadists, right? And so someone who gets off on causing pain, right, or gets off on humiliation, right, it would be more of the sadistic side of dominance. So I'm not any of those things, although I can absolutely play that. If a girl wants to play with it, I can do it, but it's not actually within me. It's more of a role play. So it's like I'm 100% dominant in terms of the actions and all the things that I do, but it's not coming from some like really integral part of myself. It's like I enjoy that. It works with my personality, with my sense of masculinity, but I really am doing it as I said, it's not selfless, but it's like I really enjoy, let's say, opening a woman up and unfolding her so that she can experience aspects of herself that perhaps she hasn't had before. And then, of course, you see aspects of the woman that no one else has seen before.
So it's like making them vulnerable and more aware of themselves, like what they really want and how they can find pleasures in different type of things, right? It's something like that.
Yeah, because
like helping opening up.
Yeah, because large numbers of women have lots of latent fantasies that they have shame, guilt, and fear around. Yeah. And there is obviously a lot of judgment on women for their sexuality in general, and especially if it's like a little bit kinky. And so, and yet there is boiling in the subconscious of most women, like far more complex fantasies than most men ever have. Because men's fantasies is like, I'd like to have sex with a hot girl easily, and maybe 2 at a time once in my life. That's it. Whereas I'm probably being a bit reductive, but whereas women have like complex fantasy structures, often like sewn in with childhood conditioning around taboo, around things they're not supposed to be doing, yet they yearn for. And so like a good dom has the ability to create a safe container for that to be explored in a way where there is no judgment and there is no danger and there's no consequence. And so you can play through the sequence of the scene or of the fantasy or whatever, and at the end, with proper aftercare, it's sealed. Let's say it's finished, and then she goes back to being herself, right? Without any residual, like, oh, did that guy think I was a slut, or like, should I have done that, or that kind of thing, which often women do experience. I would say, I don't know, I'm not a woman.
Okay, then I guess that would be a first starting point to ever try anything. Because, for example, I don't know if I'm dominant or sub, but I think the experience with top, that would be something to know more, what I like more, because that's something interesting.
I think sorry, but so far, like, out of you ladies, like, how does this conversation make you feel? Like, is it something you're interested in? Are you like, do you want to find out more? Do you feel like you relate to that and you want to express like an aspect of that in yourself? Like right now you all look like you're really enjoying it. So what do you think to like the...
Yeah, it's really interesting, I think.
What's interesting to you?
The way you talk about it. Like, yeah, it's safe to say that I'm like a newbie to this topic, and I haven't heard a man talk like this about this topic, I guess. Like this really open up and really full of imagination and everything, so I really like it.
Because would you, like, you've obviously heard of BDSM, like,
yes.
right? So what would you say, what is your thoughts on what you think it is? Like, just forget what I just said.
Yeah, like, as I came here, like really without any experience to say, I would assume that it's just sub and dominant and that's all, and it's just hurting or gets hurt and something like that. Yeah, but it's I'm really interested in hearing it in another aspect from you maybe.
Actually, I like the topic so much because I don't think that there is enough open conversation about this. I'm not really a newbie to this topic with my work and with my private life as well, but it's so hard to talk about this because a lot of people are so ashamed to talk about so natural things. So yeah, I'm really intrigued and excited to hear more.
Also, they just can't talk about it, I guess.
What do you mean?
Like, don't have the knowledge a bit or the experiences, and also they don't care, I guess.
Yeah, well, certainly a lot of men don't care enough to like figure this out, because it does as a man to like try and actually understand women. I don't yet. I'm working on it. It takes a lot of empathy. It takes dropping your pride and your ego. It takes actually listening. And being able to draw things out of a woman when she may be like more reserved or defending herself against let's say the world at large, in terms of the judgments and fears that she might have. So yeah, a lot of men, well, firstly, they just don't know that anything exists. They're just completely ignorant of it, or they've heard about it and they judge it, or they've heard about it and they're like, that sounds like too much work. So there's unfortunately not that many men who've put in the work.
Why is there such a shame around the subject of sexuality and BDSM in general? Like, I mean, if you think about it, everybody enjoys having sex.
Yeah.
But everybody hates to talk about it. I mean...
yeah, in the normal world.
You guys will be the judge of that. But, like, I mean, yes, we don't care, but most of the time, whenever you talk about anything like that, you can see people get uncomfortable. And so why is that? I mean, I understand it could be a religious perspective to it.
Well... I mean, there's multiple threads going on there, I think. Yeah, I would say you could say religious, but you could overlay cultural instead of religious, because I mean, sometimes it's religious, sometimes it's cultural, sometimes those overlap. And we have thousands of years since basically Mesopotamian civilizations appeared, where in order to control large populations, you need to have a unified belief structure. It's just the way it has to be. Otherwise, it's tribal, right? So at a tribal level, then people can be, let's say, and I don't want to like be too noble savage about it, but like theoretically at a tribal level, you can have more autonomy. But once you start not being able to know everyone in the tribe, because there's 1,000, there's 5,000, there's 10,000, right? Then we create city-states. And so then belief structures have to be in place. And so that's where like those types of organized top-down hierarchical religions have formed since back in Sumer. And then in order to control societies, you have to use fear and guilt and shame primarily. And almost all societies do that in varying degrees, in all sorts of different ways. All sorts of taboos are created that keep people in line because it works on a societal level, right? So like everyone does what they're told, more or less. then it can function. You know, we have to go out and do the crops. You have to go to war now. You know, everyone has to do their thing. The priests, we listen to them because they know what they're talking about, and so it functions, right? And so then the repression of sexuality, because sexuality is a wild and untamable force in humans, and so you need to put a fucking cap on it if you want to control populations. And so that's happened all throughout history, mostly on women, but also on men, you know, in differing ways. And particularly controlling female sexuality is really important if you want to keep a lock on a society. Not that I'm into that. So yeah, like, okay, maybe that's a theory anyway. I just made it up. But in terms of like where we're at today, okay, this is based on a Judeo-Christian society, even if none of us consider ourselves Christians. We have that morality of some sort sewn into us from childhood, you know, from Christmas songs to whatever. And there is, particularly with women, there's and again, I'm kind of mansplaining, but...
Tell us if we're wrong.
Yeah, please do. In my opinion, there is... Like, women have to live this two-stroke life in general, where they have to pretend to be nice and sweet and virginal and good, which they may well be partially that, and then they have to repress the fact that they're horny wild devils as well. Right? And so they have to lie. Women have to lie. I'm seeing some nods here. And most men have to lie. I just don't have to because I'm out of the matrix and I get paid for this shit. Not quite out of the matrix. It's about as far out as you can get. And so, yeah, like there is massive... The Madonna whore dichotomy, and there's variations in Hindu religions and whatever, which basically states that there are two types of women. One has worth and one has no worth. And so women learn that pretty early on. I'd be interested to hear your guys' experiences. Like, you know, they're blossoming of their sexuality in their teenage years, and they express it in some way, or someone near them expresses, another girl expresses it and gets harshly judged and punished for it. Right, she blew a dude at a party because she felt like it, and then she's a slut, and that ruins her reputation. And then all the girls notice that and go, I better keep quiet about this shit and pretend I'm not that, right? And then they have to hide it, and then men don't know about it, and they presume that there are good girls and sluts. And so when they're with their good girlfriend, they never get to see the slutty side of her because it's too dangerous for her to let it out. That'll do.
I think like what's interesting to me though, like I think there is teachings and there is like aspects in certain like religions and certain ways of life that do teach these things and have taught those things, but they still like kind of keep it quiet. Like when you look into like the tantric stuff, if you find like true like some of the Taoist practices, some of the Hindu practices, even the smaller sects which do actual sexual practices, they still keep it quiet.
Of course, those are mystery schools that they manage to exist.
And the same in Christianity and some other like more Western like religions. They still have some schools, but it's always kept like quiet in a way.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing? Like that not everybody can have this power, should know this stuff, that maybe it's a good thing to keep some things quiet, or you think like everyone should have access to that?
I mean, I don't think everyone should anything. But it's not about should or shouldn't. I think we just happen to now live in a time and space where all information that has ever been produced by humans, except for what was burnt in the Library of Alexandria, is available. All of it. And amazingly, people choose to go, I'm going to box myself into this. I listen to that podcast, and I like this guy, and I don't like that guy. That'll do.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, dudes, cool. How about the rest of it? But it's all out there. So it's a matter of like educating yourself in order to be able to go in pursuit of knowledge if you choose to, and if you don't want to, then just watch the fucking telly.
Did you girls have an experience with that? Like maybe a situation that you saw like a girl you knew like had something come out and then it made you like repress something? Like have you had an experience with repressing your own sexuality or that kind of thing?
Yeah, it happened to me. Like, so I'm coming from Kazakhstan, and there it's so suppressed, like being sexually anything. So when I moved here, I'm like, okay, I think here it's more open, but I still had this resistance. But I had a friend of mine, she's very explicit. Like when she tells stories, what happened last night, every single detail she was telling, I'm like, I could never say so to anyone. And I was never open about any of my experiences, even to my best friends. But I wanted to embrace that. And when I heard that, oh, there's the job description, I'm like, okay, let's try that. It was called account manager, but then it turned out to be a webcam industry. So I was like, okay, I'm watch porn anyways, and I can just quit at any time. So, but meeting those people without being judgy towards them, it made me learn so much, because they talk about sex and their experience so openly, and it's like weather conversation, you know. And I learned so much from them, and the resistance came down, because I've heard so many topics and so many stories from them, and it just, now I'm more open about it, and I think that's why I'm here today as well.
Yeah, sorry, do you mind if I just make a little interjection? Sorry, I'm just a ranting machine sometimes.
Just put the mic a bit closer to you.
All right.
And push the wind thing down. You see it's like poking out? Right in front of your mouth, just push it. Yep, there you go. And put the mic close to you. Thank you.
I'm still in that trip. Oh, dudes. Yeah, I know, I'm going to wake up. I'm like, oh no, not another layer Inception. Come on, let me out of this. I had this dream today where I was like in 5. I kept waking up, and then and I thought I was awake, and then another one. It was 5 times, and now I don't know what's real. What was the question? Oh no, it wasn't a question. I was going to interrupt, and then I forgot what I wanted to say. No, what I wanted to say was, many times I've had the experience where, you know, I coax it out of a lady, like what she's interested in, right? So she gives me a fantasy, which I think is so cute, because it's like she's like really worried about it. She's like, I have a fantasy to be spanked. And I'm like, or something, you know, something which I consider pretty, like, you know, pedestrian. And I always say, you know, that's completely normal, right? And so many times that in and of itself like changes a life, which is like, oh, what? I said, humans are freaks. You like what you like. And that thing you just said is really common. And sometimes I'm like, and that one, not so common. You know, so actually having it acknowledged and knowing that, oh, I'm normal, or I'm not a freak, whatever that means, can be enough to just like let someone actually experience what they want. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what was? Oh, yeah. So what did we feel like suppression?
Yeah. If you had an experience with something like that, or some girl like you knew, and like,
well, there's lots of ways you could be repressed. Parents told you what to do. Church said don't do whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's with us since when we were little. Like I was always so open about everything. And also with my sexuality, like I was so shamed in school, because I was so open talking about these kind of things. What I thought, and also I think it's normal, like it's so natural. And especially people in Hungary are so against talking about this, and especially if it's not vanilla, then oh my god,
what? Sorry,
vanilla.
Oh, vanilla.
Vanilla, yeah.
Vanilla.
Yeah, and. Yeah, if it's into a little BDSM, then they're like, oh my god, I don't want to hear it. It's so not normal. You are a freak. So yeah, I think we all experience this, also growing up and also in our adulthood.
And like a following up question,
yeah.
Have you had the experience so far? Like, have you had a good BDSM?
Yeah, I did. I had a few boyfriends and one girlfriend who did some really good stuff to me, and I was really intrigued to experience these kind of things. Good stuff. Yeah.
And like, what was your first like initial reaction when you were like, this is actually cool? Like, what was my life before this?
Well, first of all, I was always aware that I was into these kind of things, but only in my mind, maybe subconsciously, and I was like, okay, this is something new. I'm not sure how I'm going to react, but let's do it. And after when it happened, I was like, wow, this is how you can do it? Okay.
Can you give us like some more details?
Yeah, sure. So my first spicy boyfriend tied me up, and that was really amazing. Like I never met anyone who was into this thing except porn.
Like he tied you up in what way?
My hands, my legs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, we did some waxing, playing with wax, these kind of things. So.
Just a note for guys, if you're thinking of doing wax play with your ladies, buy a soy wax candle. You don't use normal paraffin wax because it's way too hot. Use a soy candle which burns at a lower temperature, so you still get the nice sting, but it's not actually going to burn the skin.
Also, James, for the guys out there, actually, what is BDSM? And where is it? Where did it come from?
I don't actually know the history of kink. I mean, look, ask Caligula. Like, people have been doing kinky stuff, certainly since the Romans. There was some kinky fucks back then.
But you also been doing this for 2 decades, so
yeah,
you have the most experience.
Yes. I actually haven't researched the real history of let's say the modern BDSM scene, but it's been around. Well, what was that? In the 1950s, there was that pin-up girl. Remember her?
Peanut girl.
You guys know.
Pin-up.
Can you look it up, Adam?
It's like a
pin-up girl, 1950s.
girl on a
BDSM.
poster.
No. She's got like a great name. She was a bombshell, and she used to do these foxy photos of her tied up and whatever. So I guess it's been around in the public eye since the kind of 50s in very, very underground scenes.
Shibari, how long is
that's a Japanese tradition. I don't know, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Like that's.
But did
that's
that
not,
relate to it? Like, did BDSM bondage come from Shibari? Or?
I don't know. I wouldn't say so, because Shibari is like more, from my understanding. I'm not a Shibari master. That's really complex stuff. I know some knots, but I'm too impatient to learn all that stuff. I mean, it looks amazing, and in my later years, that's soon. When I'm an older man, then I'll get into all the rope tying stuff. But from what I understand from riggers and ladies I know who are into it, it's basically immerses you into deep trance states, and it is erotic and sexual, but typically, from what I understand, I'm not an expert on this, traditionally it was not done as a penetrative sex act. It was like, an erotic bondage experience which took the woman or the sub into, like deep trance meditative states, which I guess were erotically infused. That's kind of all I should say about it, because I don't know enough about it to comment on that field so much, although it is fascinating and I will look into it. So yeah, the kink scene has certainly exploded since the internet, right? Because talking to my mate Dom, who's been a professional dominant since he was 19, and he's like 50-ish now. So yeah, he was back in the old school days. And then it was all about fetish communities. So there'd be clubs, all over around the world, but particularly in places like New York and Berlin and Sydney. Actually, Sydney's a pretty freaky place, where there's dedicated spaces where people would come to play. And I've been into a bunch of different dungeons, and it's interesting. But it's like within those scenes, people tend to be very particular about what they do, who they are in that thing, in these contexts. And they'll go and, if you approach someone, there's all sorts of rules. It's not like a club where you can just roll up and say, how about a bit of a spank, darling? It's there's very clear. They have very clear communication and consent, like extremely clear, to the point of sometimes like legal contract clear.
Yep.
And so, people will like match up with, the sadist and the masochist and the baby doll and the daddy dom and the dude that wants to be ignored in the corner because that's his thing. And can I tell you guys one funny story? Yes, thanks. So I was in like a couture kind of fetish club in New York, and a friend of mine, she was like the queen of the queers, and she like was part of this crew that got paid to dress up like vampires, basically sexy ass blade vampires, and go and be fabulous at these like high end kind of queer clubs. So she invited me along, and she's like, not dressed like that, James. She like does my eyeliner and puts me in all the blacks and makes me look, confusing. And so I go into this bar, and it's a really fancy place, and everyone's like out of a video clip, and there's like this dominatrix, like her name's Kelly Lee Decay. Look her up. She took me home, and it didn't work. I'll explain why later.
Jamie.
Yeah, we need.
I don't know why it didn't work with you, James. It's not on the internet.
Oh, burn! Oh, I'm so slow. And so I'm looking around for my mate Jess. She's gone off to be fabulous. And so I walk over to the bar, and as I get to the bar, I like stumble, right? And I look down, and there's like a huge rolled up carpet, which they've just rolled up and then like put up against the bar. I'm like, that's not very good OH&S in such a fancy bar. And I stand up on top of the carpet. I'm looking around. Where's Jess? Can't see her anywhere. Well, whatever. Saying, hang out. Some, what am I allowed to call him now? Drag queen comes and has a chat to me. She's like, you're so straight. I'm like, how did you tell? It's so obvious. But I got the eyeliner and everything. It's so obvious. All right, fine, I'm straight. Who let you in here, Jess? All right, you can stay. And then, again, I stand up on there looking around, and then she says to me, carpet guy really likes you. And I'm like, what? And I look down, and there's eye holes cut in the fucking carpet, and there's a dude rolled up in the carpet, and that's his thing, and I was just involved in that thing. And I'm like, wow, people are so weird. Why? I have so many questions. I should stop having this conversation with a man rolled up in a carpet. And then I was like, that wasn't consensual. I'm going to take the power back. And then I got on him and stomp. You fucking like that, don't you, motherfucker? And he's like, yeah. Step on me. What was the question?
Get him on the podcast next time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, so okay, what is BDSM in like a understandable log line? Just like if you want to like simplify it in one line.
Bondage, domination, submission, masochism or sadomasochism. There's various, combinations of those 4 letters. So it's kind of like it's trying to like in 4 letters encompass the wild and wonderful world of kink. So if maybe kink is a better word to that will be more relatable, which literally just means more or less anything that is slightly deviant or outside of the norm of what we might consider normal sex in this time and place. Because what was considered normal sex back in Athenian Greece would have been way different than what it is now. So let's say whatever's normative now, it's or any deviance upon that, and it tends to have aspects of power play, right? So power exchange dynamics, and that tends to be kind of the engine that makes it really spicy and interesting. So that's where the submission and dominance comes into it. But it's not just about subdom. It's about friction. It's about impact. It's about intensity. And essentially it's about sensation. It's about there's many layers to it, but like it's creating varieties of different sensations, which then create contrast and polarity, which gives you a much broader spread of experience than just the, waves crashing with a soft light filter, pumping 2 strokes a second, or whatever it is that normal people do.
All right, well.
I mean, I could rant all day, but like, let's stop me.
So for you two who've been working and are working at this cam agency place, what are the weirdest kinks you guys have experienced?
I remember I met a fetish girl, and she said that she had a client he had this fetish of putting any type of fruit on his dick, and she was leading him. She was telling him how to do, and she said first time we tried with peach, and it's really good because it nurtures and it's so moisturizing. And you can just go around with it. I'm like, oh wow, this is a cool thing. I would love to try.
You should get the grapefruits out.
Oh yeah. So hang on.
Yeah.
So he literally just likes fruit on his junk.
Yeah, like they make a hole and then like everything goes around his dick. So yeah.
That's really harmless.
Yeah.
It's a very harmless kink.
But actually, the harm thing, I remember, I think the hardest thing I saw, there was one guy, he loved to be, I think, submissive, or it's called like penis humiliation. Mm-hmm. So he sent a picture of his small dick and he put a hot pepper inside of it. Mm-hmm. And he said, "This is for you, my love." I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. And I was showing it to every guy and they're like, I would never do that. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's interesting that like when you get into more extreme fetishes, they're literally things that if ISIS caught you and did it to you, it would be the worst torture. But some people really like that. I mean, I can tell you some way more than that, but...
Yeah, well, weird fetishes. I'm not sure if it's weird, but it's not my cup of tea. So
you're not judging anyone.
Yeah, sure. For me, the weirdest was like armpit fetishes. I don't know. For me, that was really strange. Also, the various things that people love to do with pee and poo within sexual things. That was really weird to me.
So Germans like this.
Yeah, I've heard that they do like that.
Do you guys want to know stuff that you don't want to know?
Yes.
Oh yeah, please.
And once you know it, you can't unknow it.
Let's
right?
go.
Sign an NDA before.
All
Hit
right.
me.
No, it's not about that. It's like, now you have to carry this burden with you. So a friend of mine works as a financial dominatrix duo, right? So you're aware of what a financial dominatrix is? It's a sickening new kind of trend, which is really based around taking advantage of a mental illness. But there's all sorts of variations on it, right? So, and the guys, who are called cash pigs usually, or depending on their fetish, might be other types of pigs. So this particular duo is a guy and a girl. The girl is the front face. So the clients always think they're talking to the girl, which they're not most of the time. In the background is the guy who is extremely good at, he understands human psychology to levels that are terrifying. So anyway, they basically niched themselves for some time as fart fetishists. All right, so there's these guys, and they basically form this little cartel, and they know each other. So there's 7 guys, and they know each other as Fart Pig 1, Fart Pig 2. They know it. They never know. It's like, Reservoir Dogs. Anyone? Oh shit,
Yeah.
I'm sold. Thank you. And so, like, they only know each other as this thing, and they're all part of this private Telegram group, and they worship this girl. Let's call her. Someone give me a name. Barbie. They worship Barbie's farts. All right, and so what they do is that I'm so sorry. What they do is every time, basically, they have committed to pay a fart tax. So multiple times. And if they don't, there is fucking trouble. There is serious trouble. Yeah, like they will be punished. They're going to have to do some nasty shit if they want back in. All right, so they have to, and multiple times a day, they write a little story. And it just goes like something like this. I was on the bus, and then I couldn't help it, but I squeezed out a little fart. It was silent, but I hoped that nobody knew it was me, but they could definitely smell it. And the guy's like, you fucking, yeah, just $200 each, all right? Immediately. So like immediately 7 times, $1,400, boom, right? And then, and it's not, and I was like, and I'm talking to him, I'm like, dude, this is true alchemy. Because not only is it that you're not even selling a fart, you're selling a story about a hypothetical fart that never even fucking happened. This is genius. He's like, I've fucking told you. I've been saying I was a genius for years. And so this happens like 5 times a day, right? Where like, whatever her name is, Barbie or whatever, does her little thing. And then the guys pay the tax, right? And then after a while I said, okay, should I go into this detail? No, that'll do.
You're in the wrong business.
I saw the open loop there, just crushed him. All right. So, and I said, well, what about like audios? Like, why don't you sell them like the sound? Surely they love that. And he said, yeah. The problem is her farts are terrible. They don't make any noise at all. They're useless. And I said, what about yours? And he's like, I've got all that fucking problem with my guts and stuff. And I was like, well, I'm famous for my musical farts, right? He's like, yeah. And I said, I'll just send them to you. And so I did. I recorded them and I send them to him, send them to Australia to this evil dom who then passes them on to his girl, who then sells them to this cartel of dudes around the world. And I don't even take a commission. I'm just like, so generous. And I'm just like, wow, we just turned my farts into gold. And now you have to know that.
There are actually people who sell their farts online.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
make shit ton of money.
Yeah,
literally
it's an industry.
My God, I've never
There was this
heard
girl who was
this.
like speaking about the business and how she does it. Like in the morning she wakes up, she eats beans to like generate the fart, and then she sits down, she eats some ice cream, and then she puts like a little cute jar with like some leaves in it. She even explains that the fart stays for 4 days. The smell, if they order right now.
Oh yeah,
and she like sells out in like it's just like 100K in like a day. Like
Dudes.
just farts.
How much would you?
What they do, what she does with the jar, she sells it.
She just farts in
and then
it,
mails it
close
to
it.
Okay.
Yeah. See, now you have to know.
My God, I
2K
would
per
not
jar.
sleep tonight.
Would you sell your farts for 1,000 euros? What's the lowest price you'd sell your farts for?
I would start with 100.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so fair.
I give them away for free.
I had a question, like, if anyone feels like sharing, is there any like fantasy that you have that you'd like to share? No, you know this is a
give
safe.
a bit more context. That, like they have never tried before, or they've never said before.
What is like the wildest fantasy that you've had
Oh.
that you've never shared with anyone?
I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah, never say wildest or est anything, because people's brains cannot do it, because then they have to create a catalogue of all the things and decide which one's which. And they're like, is it the mostest or it's not quite the mostest? So it's better to say what is one thing that you something.
Yeah.
Seduction
What's
technique.
what's one fantasy that you've had for a long time, that you'd be willing to share? How was that?
Some reason I'm the judger of questions now.
And yeah, it works. Let's go like round this way, and yeah, I can go first if you want.
Yes, please.
I think like it's been like a fantasy for a long fucking time since I was like, I don't know, since I started having sex, which was like 13, a long, like maybe even 9, maybe 10, like that young. I had the fantasy of like multiple girls who were like, they all needed my like cum, and like I was like the king, and I had to like impregnate them all, and like they were my girls, and like, you know, they did what I needed, and they'd all like bend over like in a line, and like they'd be like, please give me your cum, and like I'd be like, okay, well.
It's like
How many times have you farted today?
It's like a Mongol Khan fantasy.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one. It's not happened yet, but I'm working on it.
So far I've got one chick, so that's a start.
Got one number.
Just keep adding to the line every single. We got another one in the line. You wait there. I'm getting the third one.
Wait, the first one needed to leave. Fuck.
Lila?
Well, I feel like I not feel like I'm not too comfortable sharing this, but I more feel like I didn't have that much experiences to think about this, and it was not that big part of my life, truly. So, in my opinion, I will start with the BDSM, I guess. So that would be the first interaction for me to maybe have, or I'm interested in.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
And feel free not to answer. So, as I kind of said, BDSM is a big toolkit. Like, what do you imagine something specifically within that like you maybe saw somewhere or you've thought about that kind of interests you?
Well, I don't know, because I was interested in videos maybe at first, I guess, and I kind of don't truly get to know myself in this topic, I guess. So I need time in this.
Do you think maybe then you could say maybe your fantasy is to discover who you are sexually?
Yeah, I guess, maybe.
And like in the videos, like what was happening? Like what aspect?
Oh.
I think
It's okay.
we might have reached her limit there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking.
I would add to that. So since I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Disney movies and many more, cartoons. And I don't know, it just stuck in my head. So like when the princess is bonded and then the prince saves her, and I just started to do it myself, like bonding myself. And I'm like, I kind of enjoy that, but I never experienced it in a sexual context. I'm like, I think that would be a first start. Like the bondage and with the vox. Thank you for sharing the tip about the candle. I put it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is the first thing to try because I never shared even this before.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Can I ask, I presume you've had a boyfriend or two in your life?
Boyfriend? Yes, of course.
You've had a boyfriend? Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you not talk to him about that and see if you could make that into a reality?
I think because I was always closed up, and also in Kazakhstan, I mean, it's just like this woman thingy, whatever, like you always have to obey man and like whatever he says, whatever he wants. But if you exactly say something what you want, then you're a whore or something. Mm-hmm. So I think I've never felt this closeness with anyone yet. There was almost coming, but not really.
Right. So you felt basically like fear that you would be harshly judged if you express that to somebody.
Yeah, but now I feel like sharing it, but of course I need to meet the right partner for that.
But you've also been living here for 11 years, so
Yeah.
even with the Hungarian guys, or you still
Yeah,
have
that's the
same
thing. Like
experience?
the last Hungarian guy I had, like we were very open about trying many things, but this didn't come there yet. Like even he asked me, "What's your craziest fantasy?" It just didn't come because I was still closed up. Yeah.
Just putting it out there. If you happen to want to experience that in a very soft and simple and safe way right now, that can be arranged.
Oh, please! It's so beautiful too.
But guys, you have to move on to our premium channel for that. But
No, it's not. No,
Okay,
I put it on
joking,
YouTube.
joking.
It's fine. It's fine.
Let's
I
do
mean,
it.
right here.
Now,
And anyone else that would like to try
Okay,
can
so
also.
let me explain. What
okay, how are we gonna do this?
Okay, all I would do is put a wrist cuff on you,
Okay.
and then if you want, I can bind it around. I can. How do I explain it? Okay, so I can bind your wrists, and then I can do something cool, which is really sexy, and is in no way dangerous or confronting, and I barely touch you.
All right. Okay, that sounds exciting. Let's try it.
Do
Let's
I
do
have
it.
your consent?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you guys want to stand up for this? Or
I'll need to.
yeah?
James Marshall, everybody.
All right. So if you are, all right. She's ready.
Always ready.
Open your fingers.
That feels good.
it's silk, isn't it?
Yeah. Nice.
Now,
I love that.
would you come over here a little?
Yeah.
All right. Now, would you lift your arms up? Drop them.
Wow.
How do you feel about that?
Feels good.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
I would love to continue next time.
Anyone else want to try?
It's really cool. You should try. It's the first time to start with. Yeah, sure.
All right. This way. This way. Do I have your consent?
Yep.
All right. Come here. Lift your arms up.
Wow, very fucking nice.
All right. And I'm sorry, but I have to let you go now.
That's okay. But this is really good. Thank you so much for showing me.
I need one of those. Where do I get those?
From me, obviously. All right. That's all I wanted to say about that. Where were we?
See, I mean, it could be as rough or as light as you wish. Like, that's why these are really interesting. But it's kind of cool. It doesn't have to be this crazy, like, you know, violent thing. Like, it could be also you could have very sensual, soft kind of like BDSM session or bondage session as well. So it's kind of crazy. Like, you know,
Yeah, that's maybe that's a common misconception with BDSM, that it has to involve violence, pain, humiliation, and those can be aspects, and some people really like those, and a lot of women like a bit of impact, like in terms of impact play, but that can be, this can be done. I can hit someone in a really cute way. Totally, you can. Like, you can do it in a really playful, in a silly way. You can do it in a sleazy, creepy, in a good way, and you can also do it in a fucking nasty way, right? So and many other ways. So that, like, the sign of a bad dominant, I would say, is someone who thinks that more force is better. Like, in order to get more out of it, I need to increase the pressure, increase the pain, or whatever. As I said before, I'm more on the sensual side of dominance. I can be fucking nasty when called for, but yeah, these kinds of bondage restraints can be like as delicate and as dainty as a butterfly. Like really, it can be really, really slow and sexy. And often I prefer it that way. And yeah, it's again, it's just about leading into different sensations. Like immediately, it creates a bit of polarity between us, right? So it's like, okay, I'm doming you, right? But it's in a way, it's an exchange. It's a little bit of a dance. And I switch into an aspect of my psyche or an aspect of my archetype, and that tends to, then sync up with an archetype or an aspect of the feminine, and now we're dancing.
So just like, firstly, I want to ask you like how that felt, but I can see like it looked kind of good. But also at the same time, just to let the guys who watch this know that like communication and like this openness, like if you have the balls to like, really hold the space for like a woman and she can open up, like it can turn things very interesting very, very quickly and very easily. And like it's fascinating to know, just not to have this anger and shame towards women, and like the more we actually allow them to express these things, the more fun it is for everyone.
And be more curious. That's the first thing to start with, without being judged or anything. Yeah.
I guess with us, you feel like not judged, you feel relaxed, like, and that's all it takes really for you to like be able to express that aspect, which is kind of fascinating. And how was it?
It was amazing. Like, it was super gentle. I like that you asked if I give consent or not, because at the beginning I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And the first thing, like, oh my God, am I going to be naked? Like in Germany, like nipples out. I'm like, no, I don't think it will go there.
Yeah. But you still did it anyway. That's interesting.
Yeah, but when you explain what you're gonna do, I'm like, okay, now I feel calm, and then it just built more trust. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, for guys out there who want to, learn this stuff, you're not learning it to like have cool tricks or to have power over women, or because like then they think you're cool or whatever. It's like, as you step more into dominance, you have a lot more responsibility, right? So like I know that when someone's submitting their body to me, then now I have to be really conscious of what I'm doing. I have to be really aware of how she's feeling, and I can't be attached to the outcome that I think I want, right? So if I'm like, okay, I want to do this cool thing, right? And let's say I put the wrist thing on you, I'm watching your reactions. If I'd seen fear or suddenly like you're uncomfortable, I wouldn't have gone, oh, well, we're going to finish the thing because I want to do the thing. Then I would check in and go, okay, do you feel safe, or would you like me to release you right now? Right? Because in this way, then that's what I'm talking about in terms of being a top, let's say. And not that like an authoritarian dom, if he's a good one, totally he's able to do that too. He just has a different tone. So yeah, it's that I'm doing that for your pleasure. And I'm aware that it can shift it and change at any time. A woman can give consent and then suddenly not want to not want to do the thing anymore, or she can be totally into it and then get into her head, or something can trigger something, a bad memory or something. So you have to be really aware as a dominant that you have to be super conscious, like super aware, and like have a kind of a bird's eye view of the situation. You can't just lose yourself in the like, I'm a wild dom dude, I'm going to hit chicks and do stuff, because then you'll make mistakes and then you can cause damage and trauma. On the flip side of this, maybe this is like a crazy concept to if you never thought about it, but this kind of work can be extraordinarily healing. Right? So you can actually, especially with sexual trauma, which a lot of women have experienced, that not necessarily with any tools or anything, but you can actually help to rewrite, traumatic experiences in somebody by doing like a psychodrama where you kind of go through the process of the thing, but you give the woman the power to say no, and you actually, she has to say no, right? Like she has to be able to at some point to just stop the thing, or to take control over it herself, or to like, actually have a good model for masculinity to experience that, oh yes, this man is actually listening to me, and he actually will, do or not do things if I wish or wish not to. And there's more to it than that, but you can actually end up, overwriting negative experiences and help someone to actually heal. So there's deeper aspects to it there.
That's what I learned. Like, I've been really into like tantra for a long time. I was looking for a lot of stuff in India, and then like when I came here and you guys were doing the sex class and like the BDSM was the thing, and I saw like all the stuff you was doing, started to like experiment like with my ex, and that was like one of the most like transformative things I could say. Like compared to like, you know, eye gazing and like slow, like sentimental kind of sex that like we were like the perfect match. Basically the dominant and submission thing like worked perfectly. So like we do role plays and we'd experiment with things, and the things that I learned from like just, you know, acting out things and tying her up and going through these like intense role plays, like it really healed something within myself. I felt like I had a lot more power, and she like really like benefited from it. And I realized that in a way BDSM and like these rougher kind of ways of doing things could be more beneficial than tantra, and more beneficial like in a medicinal kind of way.
Yeah,
I
think like in the sex course we teach. It's not a BDSM course. Like it has a lot of BDSM elements to it, but it has a whole range of like, let's just say good sex, good fucking skills. And then we also teach foundational tantric aspects, right? So anyone want me to explain briefly what tantra is? Yes, please. Kind of like yoga with sex, kind of. Let's say it's frequency-based sex as opposed to friction-based sex. So it's like, let's say, energetic or subtler types of sex. And look, I'm really talking about neo-tantra, because real tantra is ancient traditions that you don't get to do any sex stuff until you've done 30 years of sitting in a cave. You know, like.
Well said. No one says that.
Right. Yeah. So anyone who says they're a tantric master, man, no, you're not. You're a fucking hippie who learned some cool breathing techniques. Just say it what it is. You're kind of a sleazy hippie who's teaching some breathing stuff, and that's good. That's fine, and it helps people, and that's kind of what I am too. I just don't say I'm a tantric master, mom. So these kinds of frequency-based sex where you are, let's say, the examples, synchronizing breathing, eye gazing, undulate. So like, for example, if you were sitting on top of me wrapped around and we have like undulation rockings whilst clenching the PC muscle, whilst doing certain breathing locks, which shifts sexual energy up and down the body, these kinds of things. Like, they're gorgeous and delicious things to do. But yeah, I don't want to be a tantric dude with every girl all the time, because then it's too formal. But when you have, like, if you wish, you know, if a guy gives a shit enough to be a fucking world-class lover, then knowing how to do some slap and tickle, doing some nasty stuff and kink, and knowing all the foundations of how a clitoris, where there is such a thing, and where it is, and maybe what to do with it, that'd be a good start. And you know, all sorts of other, you know, let's say I wouldn't say basic, but let's say good sex stuff. And then also having an understanding of at least some elements of frequency-based tantric sex. She's not going anywhere. You know, like, and then you can like take her through waves where you can build up super intensity in the same session, you know, build up to whatever peak of intense, nasty or crazy or polarized types of stuff, and then you can down regulate and shift into, you know, this intimacy based, frequency based, delicate types of sex, which then creates such a massive contrast, right? Like the range of sensation, emotion, feelings that both of you get to experience through these waves, and then you can take them, if you're decent at it, you can take it in all up and down and in and out and blended it all in together. Now we're rocking the bedroom.
Absolutely. Can we go back to the question, because we got to your fantasy, and now James, it's your turn. Share us a fantasy.
One of the wildest fantasies.
And then we send the question all the way round back to me.
Yeah. Well, you mean something I haven't done?
It could be something you've done. It could be something maybe that's been there for a long time, or one of the main ones.
Is there something that you haven't done?
Well, there's plenty of things I haven't done, but they're things I don't want to do. Right. So, no, there's nothing that I wish to do that I haven't done. I've been doing this a long time. You know what my fantasy is? To find like a really, really boring chick who just wants to like lie there starfish and gaze up and think of England. And I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. And I want to be really bad. I just want to like kind of be awkward and accidentally put my elbow into her thigh a bit, and then, you know, accidentally fart and then come too quickly and really apologize for it.
That's so fun.
That sounds hot. That would be a kink for me.
So all the boring chicks out there, listen to this.
Yeah.
You can contact James at
Amazing.
send your CV.
All right. Yeah, that's the best I can do, I'm afraid. Oh, I can tell you some fucking wild shit I've done, but let's keep going.
Yeah, sure. So I was thinking what I would be comfortable sharing with you, with all of you today, but I would say the fantasy that I had for a long time would be power play, with some little bondage, maybe with multiple people, and I had some experience with it, and that was amazing. So.
And when you say power play, you mean like in terms of like a polarized role, like a boss and a secretary kind of thing? Is that what you mean, or what?
Not like in a role play situation, but with a dominant person, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you would like to hand over control and power to someone who knows what to do with it?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Is that hard to find?
What? Sorry?
Is that hard to find?
Yes, perfect.
Is the problem you often find people don't have the courage to do it? Are they too soft? Are they too uncalibrated?
Yeah, that's a situation a lot of the times, and also a lot of people are not comfortable doing it, and I'm not sure, like they said that they would love to do it, but at the end I'm not sure why not, but they said that it's not really a good thing for them, so I don't know.
I'm gonna guess, like often that situation sounds like someone who's, because it can be hard for a man, right, where like a woman's kind of telling him to dominate her, and he's like, he already feels dominated, right, like, and it's not, not that the girl's, trying to do that or whatever. It can be a delicate thing because men's sexual egos are so fucking fragile. And so they often put armor around it by either bravado or I don't care or I know what I'm doing. And when a woman proposes something that they really don't know how to do it, then it can be easy to say, oh, it's not my thing. As if it's not your thing, dude. As if you don't want to take control and fucking have her like at your beck and call. You just don't know how to do it yet, which is fine. Maybe I would suggest, if you find, and you may well find yourself in that situation again, there are ways to like gently coax the dominance out of a man without making him feel like he's been emasculated. Like, I mean, for a confident guy, for a guy who's confident in his sexuality, if a girl tells me, I want to do this and you're going to do it, I'm like, yes, ma'am. That's totally fine. And if I don't know something, like that's how I learned all this shit, because I didn't know any of it. And then I went to teachers, and I went home with Kelly Lee Decay, and I did a bunch of like learning and fumbling and messing it up, and and learning to be okay with that. So you can maybe say it in some kind of terms, like what I would really love is for you to take some control over me and give specifics of what that means, right? Because at first he's like, I don't know what that means. Where do I start? Right? So for example, you could say, why don't you take me around the throat and pull me towards you and tell me, and tell me that I'm yours. Right? So you can actually kind of like coach him to do that a little. And then if he does that, give him a good reaction. Right?
Yeah, good point, right? Good point.
As encouragement. And so, as an example, or like hold my wrists behind my back. Simple kind of stuff that it's like easy for him to do. And then tell him that turns me on, even if he's just doing it kind of badly or whatever. Yeah. Like, it's like when you're training a girl to give a blowjob, you don't go, that's not very good. No, that's not an excellent blow. You say whatever she's doing, you say, that feels really nice. Let me show you what else I like. Right?
Positive reinforcement.
Because then she feels encouraged and she feels validated, even when she's doing it, just first time or whatever. So in that way, maybe you can, because unfortunately there's just not enough of us out there that, so you might need to do a bit of gentle training on them, or send them to me.
Thank you so much for the advice. I will use that in the future.
Me too.
Do you have a fantasy you'd like to share?
It's at the moment, I would say under the full moon in the forest, naked, and then I have to sniff out the woman and find her. Yeah. It's like as primal as it gets.
Like in, what's that book?
Wolverine.
Brave New World.
What was it? Like, what is it?
Brave New World. There's the scenes where they like hunt each other through the forests as part of their like, it's part of the cultural process of that place.
Yeah,
Cool shit.
that's definitely going to be my kink for now.
Nice. I actually did that one, but it was not. It was a fantasy that a woman told me about. You know, that she requested, and she said something about. She brought up werewolves somehow. Right? She said something about werewolves, and she was looking at me, and she mentioned it again. And I said, "Are you turned on by the idea of werewolves?" And she's like, "Yes, yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say." And I say, "What would be the best way that could happen for you?" And she said, "I want a guy to get a wolf suit." And she's ready. She's like, "I've been waiting for this, to get a wolf suit, and I want him to chase me through the forest on full moon and catch me and fucking eat me alive."
That's my soulmate. What's her name?
I'm telling you. Well, obviously I did it. I don't want to take the thunder out of
do
you.
second hand.
Like, so can you like lead us through the thought process of like, okay, what did you do? You got the suit, the fucking went to this far.
You actually got a suit?
Yeah, of course.
Before,
A photo of it?
before we go into that, I
you
need
can
to
hide
pee
that kind of shit.
in the dark as well. Like
Yeah,
it could be anything that adds to it, I guess.
Yeah, so it could just be face paint and, you know, some kind of claws or something, you know, like it's not like that. I mean, maybe that brings up a decent point. Like in terms of like running, are we rolling?
We're rolling.
Okay. Thanks, A-Dog.
You got it.
Maybe brings up a good point in terms of like if you want to play with fantasy scene creation, right? This is what we're talking about, as opposed to like kind of an intuitive role play that might happen. Just, you know, we started a little role play there, right? But it's not, you know, it's not like a fantasy scene. And these are things that I don't do that often. They're like a special thing to do, you know, like for someone's birthday, or like, you know, to actually create, as you're talking about, like actually to like experience the fantasy that someone's always had, and in which case, okay, let's do it properly. So, okay, that may involve costumes or props or lighting or locations and so on. But it doesn't necessarily have to, right? Like, because you could totally do the werewolf thing as you, just like stripped to the waist, fucking rub a bit of mud on you and get in the zone. Like, because it's going to be way more about you feeling like a werewolf than it is about looking like a werewolf, right? So if she gets the sense of like actual fear and you get into that real predator mindset, you know, that you're my prey and I'm hunting you through the fucking forest, that's going to be way more powerful than you like doing the whole thing and going, "See, I'm a werewolf now."
The perfect werewolf costume. This is one interesting thing I think though, which blew my mind, is like you can do like a role play or like a fantasy like on one level, but then you can really get into the character. And a lot of the time, like it's not just about the sexual side, like, you know, the sex in the end and how it goes. It's like the actual acting part, the actual fun part, which makes it exciting. Like for me, I'd like, with my ex, I'd go, like if we were doing like a role play of like a kidnapping, I'd go for a walk around the block and then like get in the mindset of it. And like a lot of the fun was just in the acting side of it. So I think like, yeah, like that's one aspect which is super important.
And it's almost, in a way, if it was to be acting, you'd say it's method acting, right? So it's like I'm actually embodying the character, because the cool thing about role play is we get to dig into ourselves and find aspect, like I'm not just an Australian man who, you know, plays the flute or whatever else. I'm like a complex fucking churning mass of all sorts of nonsense, and so within me there is a fucking killer somewhere in me, right? Because push comes to shove, I probably would do it. You know, somewhere in me there's a cannibal. You know, somewhere in me there's you know, a saint. You know, there's somewhere in me there's like a sleazy, creepy something, right? So like we're all carrying around these aspects of our psyches and conglomerates that we are infected by from our cultures and so on. And so you can choose to, if you get a bit of self-awareness, to tap into some aspect of yourself. And then, so yeah, if you're doing the like, let's just, what a classic one, whatever, schoolgirl teacher role play, okay, you know, very standard kind of idea, kind of, I'd say pretty boring these days, but whatever, okay, cool, everyone knows it. So, you know, and if the girl has the pigtails and does the thing and you put on a suit, okay, and then you go, "Okay, so you didn't do your homework today?" And she said, "No, I didn't." I said, "No, she's Australian." "No, I didn't." And then you go, "Well, then I'll have to punish you then. So now, okay, I'll get this. Bad schoolgirl." Right, this is lame. Yeah, it's fucking lame. I hope you realise that, right?
Yep.
You know, whereas if you get into this sense of like, okay, I'm a school teacher. I have authority over this girl. She's been a little brat in class. And I'm going to abuse my power. Immediately I'm shifting. there's something changing inside me here, right? So when, there's a knock at the door, we set that up. Come in. She comes in. She says, yes. I said, sit down. Just wait there. I'm finishing something. Now we're in a role play, right? So when I do turn to her, so your grades have been suspiciously high lately. Shabba, right? And I give you this look that I know you already before you start lying. I know you're lying, and then you try and like justify yourself. So you've got straight A's on all your last exams. That's interesting. How did you manage that?
I was studying really hard.
Oh, were you?
Yes, I was. I was studying all night.
Okay. And what's your process for studying? We should share it with the other students. It seems to be really effective for you, considering you're a D student last semester.
Well, I was just sitting down home and just reading my books.
Shabba, what I'm writing here is your expulsion notice. So when I sign this and stamp this, you get kicked out of this fucking school, and you don't get to come back. Is that what you like?
No.
You wouldn't like that?
Getting expelled from the school?
Yeah.
I wouldn't like that.
That would be a problem for your future, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So what are we going to do about that? And so on.
I'll do anything.
Love that.
Well done, guys. Beautiful performance.
It makes it a lot more powerful when you pause. It actually adds a lot of tension in there.
Yeah, it creates menace. Because you think about it, like a real authority figure, I'm in charge. I don't have to shout and shout and shout, and I'm the boss. I'm like, obviously I'm the boss. I already know this. I already know this chick's lying. I already know I've got her. And I know she's got two choices, and I know which one she's going to take. So I can take my time and enjoy it.
Beautiful. If there is like someone who is in a relationship, or let's say they're like coming from space that they've never done anything like this, and they would like to actually speak to their girlfriend about some kinks, let's say like something very like simple, like anal or something that they've never done, how would that guy actually like warm the girl up for something new, and how should he proceed?
Do you want to use anal as the example, because maybe that's I can tell you how to introduce anal, but let's
just say something slightly kinky, like that's just a small example. Yeah.
Okay, let's go with spanking, because it's something that's like
spanking should be all right. I mean, something a little bit more.
Okay, where do you want to go?
Like, I don't know, like
somewhere between spanking and anal.
I don't know, like let's say like rope, or like something that I think everybody's been spanked before, even as fun, so people are kind of familiar to it. Me?
No, I mean, you would be surprised that... I know you wouldn't be surprised by spanking.
Oh my God, big booty.
I mean, you'd be surprised how many women complain that their boys won't spank them.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so let's say tying up. Something like that. Okay, so you mean, as the guy, you would like to do this and you want to introduce it to the girl?
Yeah, you want to spice things up, and your girl is not about it. Like, how could you actually make her warm up?
Well, how do you know she's not about it? Like, because we're in a
Let's say you said it didn't work. Like, I'm just thinking about myself 10 years ago.
Okay.
And that's why I was in a situation that I wanted something more.
Yeah.
And my girl wasn't about it. So I just basically asking this question on behalf of the people who are going through this now.
Sure. Well, I think, and I don't know that situation, obviously, but a lot of women are not about it until they're about it. Right, so often, like I remember this in my 20s, trying to like do something with my girlfriend. She's like, oh, I don't know, I don't really want to do that. And I'm like, oh, she's so frigid, like, and it was really that she didn't feel safe with me because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was trying to push to do it because I wanted to do it. Right? And she got that sense that it's like he wants to do this thing to me, and it's rushed, and he's trying to, push my boundaries or like plead or something that's not sexy. And as a result, she's like, I don't feel like I want to do that. Right. And like you say that with, like, for example, girls giving head, like some girls, they just don't want to give head to particular guys. Whereas with other guys, they will deep throat and gag on it. Right. it's not because they don't like blowjobs. It's because the way that was presented, either in some kind of like beta kind of pleading way or some too rough and aggressive and not paying attention to her kind of way, means that she's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't feel turned on. This doesn't feel right for me. Whereas, you know, like I'm typically with partners who have never really experienced any of this, or very little of it. Like, let's say outside of, you know, a spanking or the one boyfriend who did choke her or something like that, right? So I don't usually play with kinksters. And I have it all the time where a girl who's never done anything, by the end of the night, has done everything. Not because like I rushed it or because I like convinced her or did something to like make her do it, right? It's that, just in this example here, we just, in a small way, started to fulfill a lifetime fantasy that apparently no other guy had the ability or thought to. I mean, obviously, I'm a pro or whatever, but like, had the nous to be able to like figure out how to communicate that with her, or her to be able to communicate it with him. So therefore it never ever happens, right? Whereas like we just met and she feels totally comfortable, I think. Yeah. Good. With what went down, right? And so in a way it feels like the most natural, normal thing to do. Like it's not, maybe it didn't even, although it's probably kind of interesting and exciting, it didn't feel like something way wild or like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
No, it was very calm.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see where I'm kind of going with this? Like,
yeah. So you're like, the way you present it is important.
Yeah.
You like being relaxed in it is important. Being suggestive about it is important. So I'm just looking at it from a practical.
Yeah.
point
Well,
of view.
everything I'm saying is super practical.
Of course, but like just to simplify it, let's say. So
Yeah.
Do you like plant the seed, or you like, hey, I have this crazy idea, let's do it? Like, how do you actually like present that?
Many different ways. So there'd be all sorts of ways. Like, okay, where we watch, like you say, what's your favorite type of porn? And she says, I don't want to watch porn. You say, shut up. Yes, you do. Right? And then she's like, I like, just girl on girl lesbian. I'm like, and then, so I'm like, I know, because the vibe is, I know that you're a freak, that we're all freaks in a way. And I might be wrong, actually. Okay, there are certainly asexual people, and there are people who just, it's not. And if you meet a girl who is like I'm not going to date that girl, personally. No disrespect to her, but I find out that she like, I remember I had one partner not that long ago who I went to spin around. She says, I don't do doggy. And in my head I said, this will be the last time we see each other. Because I'm like, and I'm not angry at her or whatever. I'm sad for her, actually, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, you're missing basically half the options. And so, okay, I've certainly met women along the way who are just like hard no on like kissing during sex or any kind of oral sex on either side, right? And these kinds of things. And of course, okay, I respect the boundary on that. For me personally, that will be the end of the, I'm not going to be rude about it, but whatever we do, and then it'll be the end of it. If that kind of, I mean, okay, I have had some longer term partners where they had blocks around certain things. Okay, I can think of like giving blowjobs because she really felt in an internalized position that this is degrading to women, right? To be on your knees sucking a dick is just degrading, full stop, right? When you can see,
Sounds like she got it all wrong.
Of course she got over it, but I didn't like do something to convince her. Like I talked to her about it, and I found out, okay, so you like all sorts of, you are pretty kinky. You like all these different things, and there's this one thing that you seem to have a really hard no on. Can you tell me more about what's going on? And so we had a discussion, and I get it. Like I can see that position, right? She's like da da da. And I said I can see how you can how it could totally be perceived in that way. I'm standing above you. You're on my knees. It's kind of like a servant. It's all men want to do this and objectify women in this particular way. I get it, right? Like there's a legitimate concern there. And if I'm like, come on, don't be a fucking pussy. I licked your pussy. I'm on my knees. What's the difference, right? No. Then she's shut. Then she's like, you're not the guy. And now I definitely don't want to give you head, right? Whereas it's like the empathy of understanding. Okay, I can see where this comes from, and then talk about it in terms of reframing it. It's like, okay, well, would there be, if it's about that you feel like you've lost power here, would there be, if I was, for example, lying on the bed, and even if I had my hands tied, for example, and then you got to take my cock, right, and be the one that's like the active person, would that change things? And indeed, that was the thing that changed things, right? So, look, I have to talk like this because, you know, and you're not the only person that asks questions like this. I get asked them all day, every day, which is like, what's the exact steps that I take to do something? You know, whether it's meeting a girl on the street or something. And I can tell you exact steps, but I'd rather we have a deeper conversation here, which is like, because that's not really the answer. Yeah, there's all sorts of steps, but then guys go, oh, okay, I do that when she does this, and I do that when I does this, and that's wrong, because it's more like a spider web of possibilities. And really, like, you know, what makes a man a great seducer is being able to have actual empathy and try to put yourself inside the body and mind of a woman as best you can, and think about, what is it like for her to be picked up by me? What is it like for her to be fucked by me? All right? Okay, I'm not going to ever really get to experience it, and I'm not submissive, and I'm not a woman, so I don't really understand, but I'll try, right? And from that, and that's when women start seeing that kind of thing, then of course she's going to trust you. Of course she wants to, I mean, not necessarily she wants to do X, but like she's going to be way more open to exploring something if you come at it from that kind of frame, as opposed to, okay, how do I get her to do the thing? See what I mean?
Yeah, so I understand that it's variable. Like, not one situation can apply to everything, but there are like core to this understanding that
you haven't been listening. You've been waiting to say that because you missed what I said.
No, I totally understood.
No,
what
you said I get it. It's about there's lots of variables, and I said, yeah, I did say that, but I said a lot more than that.
I'm sure you did. As again, I'm just down to simplifying it.
Yeah. I think, what ends up happening there is it actually makes it much more complex for people. Yeah, maybe it's an advanced simplicity or something. Like, what do you guys take from what I said? Is that resonating, or does it just sound like waffle? Because it could be. I haven't slept in a while.
No, it sounds resonating, of course.
Yeah.
But like, I'm curious.
I think what you're saying is that you have to read like the cue of like what the woman's telling you. Like, there's not a one size fit all. Like, if this happens, do this, and you'll get to that, because you can't teach it in that way, because the person's going to think, oh, this girl in front of me is giving me this situation, and I've got these steps, and if I just do these steps, then I'll get what I want. That's not the answer. Yeah. You have to read the girl, and you have to, it's kind of like a takes two to tango situation. Yeah. So through like taking these principles and understanding that you need to be open, you need to speak with her, get down to the root of why she feels that way. In that openness, she will then open up and be able to, like, maybe she'll be able to open herself to the situation. Yeah,
build our communication on that, and to give different scenarios, because that's like alternative options that she can choose from, and then you can experience further with her.
Yeah, all that. Also, like, which I guess I was hinting at or talking about at the beginning of that rant, was if I embody, like when I was talking about how when I was, you know, clueless and 20 or whatever, that I was, you know, trying to get the girl to do things, but she couldn't, I wasn't in the right archetype for her to actually experience that, right? So it's like, as you, and this is part of developing as a man over time, you know, I'm much different than I was 10 years ago, much different than I was 20 years ago, that over time and experience, you get to chill into yourself more, and you get to understand more about like the overall resonance of women in general, right? And you can, like, when you came in, I gave you a hug. Yeah. When you came in, I gave you a handshake. Why do you think I did that differently to both of you?
Like, to build, so it's like the first interaction that you build, so like you put a guideline how the relationship would be, or like you just, like, I don't know, broke the ice, or I don't know.
But why did I not give her a hug?
Maybe you could sense that I'm not that open to anyone, or I'm more like a closed person, I guess.
And if I'd gone to give you a hug, you would have probably felt uncomfortable. Am I right, or you're not sure? Or what?
No, not uncomfortable, but I would be a bit shocked, like, not shocked, but I would be a bit surprised, like, oh, it's not usual, but yeah, it would be comfortable.
Right. Oh, okay. So I was just walked in, I'm like, she wants a hug. And I think, and I could be wrong. I could have gone, she's like, whoa, who the fuck is you? Certainly I've been wrong, right? And then I took one read of you and I went, nice to meet you, right? And I even in that moment, I actually had to check myself, because I'm like, I hugged her, no, not hug, right? So how did I develop that? I mean, it's not magic or whatever, but it's like, okay, these are the kinds of skills of being able to kind of feel the resonance of an individual, to meet them where they're at currently, in a way, because I want you to feel comfortable, and I want you to feel comfortable in whatever, and you as well.
Thank you.
We'll have a hug later, because I think you
Love it.
right. So yeah, that's what's going to lead to, okay, if I'm with an individual partner, that I will probably be able to step into the archetypal aspect or read her in a way that's going to work for her. Yeah, so that's, I guess, about as practical as I can explain it right now.
Also, I think most people are focusing what they feel comfortable, not how others feel comfortable, maybe. Like, you could say that, oh, I will give everyone a hug because I always give everyone a hug.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about me. It should be like what the other person tells with their eyes.
Being able to read the cues and be dynamic about it and not apply the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, that wouldn't have felt good for me either. Like, because I can feel when someone doesn't want to be hugged. And I would have gone in and gone, oh no. So I'm just like, no, this feels right currently.
No, it would be okay.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right.
She gave a consent.
Maybe you get a hug on a goodbye.
I can hope.
So, like, another thing I wanted to ask is, like, personally, like, has there been, like, one experience or an experience which really made you think that was good sex, or that was something that I really like, or a partner that just did something, or a situation you had which would be maybe not the best, but like something that really like was like, wow.
Yeah, there was.
Considering you've all had sex.
Yeah, like I think the last partner, we were dating, was like short relationships, but anyways, it was, I think, the best sex in my life, because the guy was always asking if I want something. He was like, do you want me to grab your neck, or you want me to pull your hair, like, and he was communicating so openly. And then I opened a little bit more too, and it was always different and for hours, and it was always crazy.
So it was
Nice
like
work,
the
dude.
communication side, that like he wasn't afraid to just say, do you like this, do you do this, like move here. And
like before, it was communication during the process, but also follow up after. That was so important, because he was always asking, did you like when I did this or that? And I was saying yes, or I was like, yeah, you can do it more. So then the experience was better every time we had it.
I just want to, just double barrel that question with what advice would you give to like men to do better? But maybe that's another question. So yeah, we can.
So should we?
So send the question round. Like, what's one experience that will like
just
shine
one
out for you?
second. So, as somebody who's doing this professionally, would you actually recommend to verbally ask for consent continuously in the beginning, or you could actually like communicate that through some body language or?
That's a good question, and it's a complex kind of field, because there is the idea of like literally at every touch, I'm like, can I put my hand on your knee? Yes. Or can I put my hand on your shoulder? And we do that.
Sexy.
And can I pump again? And again?
That's how it sounded like.
Right. Well, no, I don't think so. No, like, because that's extraordinarily like contrived, and that's never gonna. That's gonna take all the fun out of it, right? But what I got from this was like, because it doesn't. I'm sure that guy wasn't asking permission for every pump, right? Right. Okay. So, but when she say, okay, he, asked if I can put my hand around your throat, which is a big move for some women, people. Right. Okay. This is a vulnerable thing, right? So when I'm going to initiate a choke on a girl, often I do it with non-verbal consent. So with a test, right? So I don't just reach for the throat. We're making out, and I run my hand here, and I put no pressure at all. And if she does that, then I back off. Right? Usually it's this, right? Okay, and then I just massage the throat. Right? There's no choking at all.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I might move into the choke, then I might check in with consent. And then I'll look her in the eyes, and it's sexy, because that kind of consent is fucking sexy. Want me to choke you? Yes. Okay, this is like intelligent consent, let's say, right? So, yeah, if I'm stepping into like areas of, but like, yeah, often I'll do like non-verbal tests to check where her compliance is with me, and then, but there are certain things that I would always ask consent for, which are spitting in the mouth, slapping a girl in the face. Using a vibrator internally, using a toy internally on her, right, a foreign object into her body, right? So these things I always check in with, because these are like either love it or fucking hate it kind of things. And like, you slap a girl in the face who doesn't want to be slapped in the face, it's a really bad thing. Whereas like, you know, giving a girl a tap on the butt, no, I don't, you know, we're making out, I give her a little tap on the butt, like, which is the test. You know, that's not going to make someone cry. That's not going to, you know, give them a trauma. That at worst, they'll think it's silly, right? So, you know, so you can see how there's like certain aspects where I need to be really conscious that, okay, now I'm stepping into an area where a lot of people, I mean, a lot of women love if you do it correctly, and slapping the face is a really, really precise art form, actually, because you can easily break the nose, break the cheek, bust the lips. You have to do it perfectly for it to work. But lots of women fucking hate it, and they're never going to want you to do it ever, right? So that's how I mean, in the course I cover this in like broad detail, and we look at, you know, exactly how to, you know, the exact ways to have non-verbal consent, to have verbal consent, and to make it so it is sexy, right? As opposed to that clinical, like, okay, can I do this now? And yes, and yes, and yes. Okay, that's not realistic or fun. And one thing that I never ask consent for is to kiss her for the first time. Never.
Bang it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Cliche Hollywood movie. Can I kiss you?
Yeah, and I used to do that all the time, and I try and make cool ways to say it, because the moment you say it, the girl's like, oh god, yeah, okay.
Such a turn off.
I did it recently, but it worked because she had an e-cig, and like she was smoking it, and I was like, what flavor? And she was like, it's this flavor, and I was like, I don't smoke. I'm gonna have to kiss you and find out. And then she was like,
Okay, that's, you know,
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
that's cool. Yeah, if you have, you know, there's a moment where you come up with something like that, cool. But yeah,
like, probably
like
the first time
commercial.
I've done it for years.
and sorry, I guess you guys were nodding and stuff, but yeah, there would seem to be some agreement there, right? Like, tell us about like what was your reaction to what I just said about consent in general, maybe, and specifically with the kissing.
Yeah, the kissing part, yeah, totally don't ask if it's the first time. But the way you did it, it's like in a movie or like in commercial, so it was very natural.
Yeah, it,
So,
it could
yeah.
be fine, yeah.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it's the worst thing ever to look straight in the eyes and just ask, can I kiss you?
And why? Like, I mean, I can imagine.
It's turn off, lame, and it's like, no. It's in my opinion, it's not that manly, or
Right.
maybe.
Because he's like,
dominant
there's a
thing.
risk that he's not willing to take the risk of trying to kiss
He's
you and
like,
then being rejected.
He's like hesitating.
Yeah, also with the consent part that you said, I totally agree with you. Like asking in every 2 seconds that can I do that, it's not good. But for some things you have to ask for consent in not like so official way. So for example, do you like that? Do you like how that feels or something like that? That goes a long way.
Right. And like, you want some more? Can
Yeah.
you take it deeper? Yeah. Have you had enough? Like, that's, you know, I'll check. Like when I go, I can see she's like, she's ruined. You know, I'll note that. I'll say, had enough, or you want some more? Right. So like in these ways, you can put ongoing consent into play, and it's dirty talk. You know, it's fucking sexy and cool, and I'm able to check in and to modulate things as when needed. Or if I see that sometimes, you know, a girl gets up into her head and suddenly she's totally out of the thing, then, which happens sometimes, you know, then I say, are you still with me? Should we have a break? And then she's like, you know, yes, no, or whatever. And then if she says, no, let's keep going, then I'll say, all right, look me in the eyes and stay with me. Right, so she's zoning out, and I'm like, okay, come back to me, or stop. Either's fine. Right, so, you know, these are kind of things that you can, as you get proficient with it, you can sew into the sexual act, and it can just add more sexiness to it.
It could be a bit of trust, I think.
Sorry?
It could be a bit of trust, I guess.
Building trust, yeah. Yeah, because if a woman knows that the man will actually stop if she wants to, or will change things up, then she doesn't. Then this makes the sex better for everyone because it means she doesn't need to monitor him so much. Like she doesn't have to be like aware of like, oh, is he pushing in too deep, or is he being a bit rough? And she has to be in her head thinking like, oh, I need to be ready to like really stop him, as opposed to like, this guy's got me. I can just blah, 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 this feels good.
And I assume that trust could be built if the guy proves that he's present enough to read her cues and go with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like it happens in real time, like the number of times I've had, a girl come home with me. She doesn't really know me. She's as is most women when they come home with most men. There's a bit of nervousness, like, are we gonna have good sex or am I gonna die? Yeah, and simple things like just like take your shoes off, make yourself at home, check things out. Can I get you some water? Like immediate, that kind of stuff. I mean, you could fake that as a sociopath, of course, but like, okay, so she's like, okay, so like he's concerned with my comfort currently. And usually what I'll, like, for example, if I sit on the couch and then she comes and sits down like a meter away from me, I won't move into her space. I'll say, come here. And if she doesn't, then this date's ending soon.
That's so interesting because it's the same with dogs.
Oh.
So interesting.
Right, if you go into their space,
you have to ask them to come.
Right.
So you don't go like, give them. You have to actually be seductive enough for them to come to you.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So and then what
Wow.
well, we're all animals. Let's say we're all animals. And so if it's like come over here, then she gets to come into my space and settle into my space, to lean into me or just keep the whatever distance works for her or whatever else. But like in that moment, a number of times I had it where the girl just melts into me, and then the trust is kind of instant, right? Because just from that one action shows that like I don't need to get in there and get some action. It's like I'm gonna get some action. Join me, or I'm not. Or she's like, oh no, I'd rather stay here. And I'm like, all right, in that case. Let's have a conversation. So what did you study at university? And I'll bore the shit out of her until she either kisses me or leaves.
So you want to give us like your best experience or something that really shone out for you? Could be a pivotal moment. You're like, fuck, that was amazing.
Do you get those again? I mean, do you get those still?
Do I get them still? Rarely. Like sometimes there'll be like I still get surprised, right? Like there'll still be like something comes up with a woman and I'm like, whoa, wow. Like I can tell you one that happened recently in Brazil, right? And it's like, it's not something I haven't seen before, but I was like, wow, humans are amazing. So I went on a date with this woman who was a librarian, very extremely intelligent. And we had a date, walked along the beach, talked about culture and shit, and like smart shit. And then we went back to my place, and she had brought up that she was, I can't remember how she hinted that she was submissive in some kind of way. So I was, aware of that. I'm sorry, but I can't remember the exact context, so I forget things. So anyway, we're back at the house, and I take her by the throat in the way and I pull her in. She immediately, like, I can see, like, she drops into subspace instantly. And she says, I've been so bad. Like, and she's basically, it's what is this? Is improv. It's throwing out the first thing. And like, a lot of guys will be like, what did you do wrong? Like, I don't see it, okay. So, and I said, yes, you have. Turn around, lie down on the bed. Faster! Right? And she lies down. Right? I'm like, you've been such a naughty bitch for whatever reason.
Your grades.
And we didn't. I was like, whatever. She wants to go straight into it. And so I went and I said, I'm going to spank you and you're going to count. Do it. She's like, 1, spank. 2, spank. 5. What did you say? And she says, I'm so stupid. I don't even know how to count. I'm never gonna pass primary school. This chick's fucking smart as fuck, right? And in that moment, I went, "You stupid fucking bitch! Let me. I'm going to teach you how to fucking count. We're going to start again until you get this right. 1, right?" And then we went through it, and because I immediately read the thing, like I immediately knew what she was doing, but I was just like, wow, humans are so fascinating. That like this woman who is like professionally intelligent, like we had, and that her fantasy is to be stupid. Wow. Okay, so that kind of thing. Sometimes I go like, wow, okay, yeah, still got things. I mean, it's still kind of shocking just to like see the intricacies of people's fantasy worlds. Yeah,
it's fascinating.
May I interrupt you for a moment?
Please do.
I just really had this. Okay, I had this memory while I was watching the 50 Shades of Grey, I guess, that the character said that, okay, I'm gonna spank you and you're gonna count. And one of my friends just said, in French. And yeah, it just...
yeah, it's like that's kind of a classic game, doing the count one. But I've done that. I've done counts many times before because you can... It's cool. You can work, and you can say things like, "You're on a count to 5, and one of them is really gonna hurt." And then maybe none of them hurt, right? But it's like, the psychological thing of, is it this one? Is it this one?
Guys, take notes.
Yeah, so that's like, you can play this cycle, but I've never had a girl like flip it and trip it on me, and I caught it immediately. So we both played the thing. I'm like, okay, and afterwards I'm like, high five, come on, we did a good job on that one. Now let's talk about literature. Interesting.
Best ever sex and why?
Wow, that's so hard to pick one.
Something that shines out.
Yeah, good question. I have a few, but maybe I'm going to relate a little bit to Hadisha's story. I've had a really good sex with a guy a few months ago, and we did some really nasty shit. And like in between the things that we did, he asked for consent, but in such a sexy way. He was communicating, even though he was, dominating the shit out of me. So yeah.
You want to give us an example of that sexy way he communicated? It all blends into one nasty mess.
Yeah, maybe I remember one or two. Like, does that feel good to you, or what do you want me to do here? Like, really just communicating what I want or what I feel good.
Yeah. Good man.
Actually,
Same question.
This goes to our basically relationship questions. What is it that make you want to settle down with a man or a woman? Like, what are the qualities?
Good question.
If that's what you want.
Or if you were, I guess, they don't have to want it today, but like
Oh,
at
yeah.
some point,
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Well,
Let's say a man is very interested in a woman and he wants her to commit. And what are the qualities that a woman finds attractive?
Let's get like a round going and see, like, get some quick answers. And
yeah, sure. Well, I think honesty is one of the most important things in a relationship. I don't want to get fucked over by a guy. I really respect honesty here. Also, sex is really important. So if you don't match there, I don't think that's going to work on a long-term basis. Also have kind of similar interests, not like everything, but a few that you can connect with. Yeah, at the moment, this is what I can think about.
For me, the respect is the first, because I just had relationships with was a little lack of respect in it, and I just know that it's the most important thing for me. Also the trust, and I never prioritize the sex in relationship, but I guess it's the most important too. Like I have to think about it. Yeah.
Mm. How do you know when you're respected for you?
By the way I treated, obviously.
But like, what would that? Because that can look like different things for different people. Like for you, what would being respected look, feel like?
Like he respects my choices, and also the way the things I like, the way I'm thinking, and just respect the human I am.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, sorry.
Where are you?
Who could be
Now I
next
zone
one?
out after sneezing.
In your fantasies.
Yeah, I'm
It's
like,
like a man orgasming. It's like after that you're like, achoo.
Right. Well, trust for sure. The thing is, I'm still finding this out because I've never been in very long relationships. So I'm still building this list. But I guess the person has to be versatile and super ambitious towards life and be fearless and be human enough, just like be humble no matter what. That's the most important for now.
Yeah, that's so good. Actually, I want to add something to mine as well. After you, like positive energy. Like I don't want to get drowned with negative energy. Like really, of course, we all have bad days, but most of the days, be positive. Think about the good things.
So yeah, this is very interesting because right now I have a video that I would like to share with you guys, which is basically the new kind of like, this is the leading dating, I mean, based in unfollowing. These are the guys who are being followed the most and being listened the most right now on the internet. And there's this guy who's actually telling men to lie to women and being dishonest to them. So this is a very interesting topic for me that's actually come up. And we even like spoke about this, that there are many men who are telling you to actually lie to the woman and manipulate them. And there's also like the idea of radical honesty and everything else around it. And you hear honesty all the time. So is this something that the woman actually is like, you know, like thinks that she needs, but she's also like attracted to the playboy who lies? Or or should men just be honest?
Can both be truly honest? Like, is there an art of having to tell a lie or a white lie in the whole seduction?
Actually, could we watch the video?
Maybe. Is it Andrew Tate?
Nope.
I was thinking the same.
I was thinking the same. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of his disciples.
Okay.
Love to know your opinions.
I get so angry after these.
Well said.
Like
well
blog,
said.
blog.
Yeah.
These kind of men, I don't think they should be allowed to have phones and microphones. Like, this is so disrespecting towards women. Like, why do we want to be lied to? Like,
I think whoever that dickhead is, that's paradoxically going to be much more damaging to the men who listen to it, because if you believe that, if you're willing to listen to that guy who has zero charisma and zero understanding of anything, you know, I know what theory he's talking. I know the theories he's talking about, but the only guys that are going to take that on board are the guys that are then going to very badly try to lie to women, and women are going to go, I can see what you're doing, fuck off. So it's like, I think in a good way, there's very few men that would actually be able to lie convincingly enough if they're following that dude to fool any woman. And for the most part, it's just going to fuck them up, because these are, I know, you know, it's TikTok, right? Is it?
I mean, this is like, this content is everywhere these days.
Yeah, I know,
Like,
I know.
It's leading the industry. You know,
Yeah, because it's controversial and it drives clicks. Hence why I'm not as famous as I should be. But we can change that. That's what we're doing here tonight.
yeah.
I think it comes to a broader question of, I think there's a massive stigma around guys just learning how to get better at dating, at sex, and a lot of guys feel shame in that. And the problem is women, if a guy was like, I learned how to get better at talking to girls with this guy, women think it's that guy that you showed. And they're like, well, he's a dickhead. You shouldn't have learned from him.
Spoils it for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Like, I think in answer to what you were saying, kind of whether it was a question or kind of amusing about, can we ever be 100% honest with each other? No.
Yeah.
Obviously not. You know, have you got a sister?
Yeah, she's 2 years old. So.
Fuck, do you have a sister?
Yes,
is
I
she
have.
Cute?
Yeah.
How old is she?
22.
Okay, cool. All right, so you and I start dating, right? We're fucking into each other. We're having a great old time. You know, eventually I go to meet your family in Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Oh, what an awesome adventure. Let's do it. All right, so we go, and I meet your mother. I'm like, nice to meet you. And then I see your sister. I'm like, I would like to fuck your sister. I'm going to radically be honest right now and tell you that I find your sister attractive because I'm a man and I just find women attractive that are hot. And I just couldn't help myself. And I looked at her and for a second I just thought, I want to fuck the sister. And they went, oh shit, I thought about that. But I better tell you because I'm being honest. Nah.
No, that's the dick energy honesty. I don't
think
like
Well,
that.
it's like, it's, you know, like, okay.
There's a difference
like-
between not saying stuff and then lying,
Yeah.
and I think some things just don't need to be said. But
That's
like,
into your personal life as well. You don't have to share everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like, okay, I'm trying to think of I'm trying to like steel man this guy's argument if I can. It's gonna be hard. Look, well, maybe I'll just ramble to myself, and then let's wrap this up soon because I'm gonna collapse soon. So the first guy that I started hanging with who was really fucking good with women, like he was a killer, was an absolute liar, right? And he said to me one day, you know, and he was 19 at the time, I don't know where he got this shit from, like he was born for this. And he was probably a sociopath. And we were having a discussion about seduction, and I was talking about, you know, the connection and something, and he says, Jamie, listen, before you have sex, 90% of it is a lie. And it just fucking hit me like a ton of bricks. Because I was like, I get what he means. It's not an absolute truth, right? But I got what he meant in that brutal Bukowski-esque fucking statement, right? Which is, you know, and then what's the extrapolation? I mean, it's like, that's a pretty good soundbite, right? Back for 2006 or whatever. But what he was saying, and as I extrapolated and I hung out with a bunch of naturals, and that's where I built the system by like pulling apart, what are these motherfuckers doing? And seeing the commonality threads or whatever. But he was like, because he was a broke teenager, right? Who'd spent all the money he had on slick clothes and an earring, and he was handsome. And he was the best I've ever seen at club game to this day at 19. And so we would go into the club, and I would see him walk in, and he later described it like he walked in and he put on like kind of like a Batman cape of evil, and he looked around and all the girls were little rabbits to him, right? That was his mindset, and it fucking worked, you know. And he would go over. It's all lies. It's all fucking smoke and mirrors, but he knows how to make the smoke and the mirrors look really, really good. You know, he'd go over to whatever he's doing, and I'm watching like, what the fuck is he doing? And like he'd lean in and say something into the girl's ear. Like, I'm like, what did he fucking say? And later on I go over and say, okay, what was the thing? Tell me the thing that you said. He's like, what? I just went over and said, my mum has creamy pasta. Like, and the girl's like, and then and then he would pull her in, and like it was all fake, right? But it was faked so well. And then he would pull her in the bathroom and fuck her in the bathroom. Right? And I saw it happen dozens of times. Okay, so it's like, you know, that this is maybe like if I'm trying to steel man the argument here that like women love to be lied to or something. It's like on certain nights, on certain days, she doesn't want to know the whole man. She doesn't want the full truth of him and his bowel movements and his issues and like what he thinks about stuff or whatever. She wants to project onto him, that's a sexy something. That's my sexy guy, and he's all this stuff, which he's not. But if he's able to like mirror that and play that out for her in that moment, when that's where she's at right now, that she's like, I want to get laid tonight and I want it to be sexy with some badass fucking player or whatever. And the guy can play that role and lie to her, then okay, you know, then under that circumstance, yeah, maybe. And yeah, if the guy's good at it. Right. So I think that's maybe the best we can get out of that, and I did that way better than he did.
Well, I think the percentage of guys who are gonna thought about that when he says that is down to zero.
Yes, you're right.
So
yes, you're right.
we also like have to think maybe this clip, there's so many chops in there. Maybe someone like made that clip worse than it actually is. I don't know. But can we get your thoughts on it also?
Yeah. In my opinion, it was really like this toxic masculinity to say, but it was like the toxic feminism, but like in a reverse mode. Like it was so strange to see. But also, I think that it's fully chopped up. So
Yeah.
I don't think it might be not even real. It is real, but
Oh,
It might be
there's men
made
out
up.
there who say stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe it. It just it might be made up a bit.
Maybe
Even
someone
this-
wanted to take him down and like did an edit. Like it's
You
hard
mean
to
like it just sounds unreal to you? That's what you mean?
Too, yeah, that's too, yeah.
There's so many cuts, like it could have been like.
Yeah, it's like an edit, and also the music.
Although often people, I mean, I don't know, and I choose not to find out whether that. I mean, often guys do punch out that chop stuff because that's the TikTok generation. All you kids are in, right?
Yep.
It's like I can take 15 seconds and then blah. So it's like probably
That's the truth.
Yeah, the truth in 15 seconds. Jesus Christ.
And
Well, it looks fake, but unfortunately, it's so true. Like, I was watching so many documentaries about this toxic masculine culture, and it comes all from porn, starting there, and from media that they tell to men that you have to be always bold and to be this sexy and have this so many women and so much money. But it's actually so not true, because men, when they're growing up, and they're about to lose their virginity, they're feeling so much pressure from their best friends who are telling to his guy, like, hey, you're the last, oh man, like you're still a virgin when you're 16. This is so bad. Like, how you can treat your best friend like this because you're so brainwashed by the media, and you shouldn't. Like, you have to stand up for each other as men, at least for your friends, for your brothers, without feeling them judged that they're still a virgin or they don't know certain things. You have to educate each other on your experiences. So, yeah, like, this is a crap that I would never suggest to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been working in this industry for a long time, 15 years, and I know men's pain, I know men's frustration, and I know that a lot of men don't even exist on your radars. Right, they're invisible to the large percentage of women out there, and this kind of content, and I mean all pickup content actually, including mine, and just to depending on, I mean I have a wide variety of clients, but a lot of them, like, these are guys that are left behind because they're not sexy, and I don't mean that in a physical sense. They don't know what it means to be confident, to be able to be an attractive human being. They have had no reference experiences because they were ignored by women, and it's the easiest way to get good with women is to get a girlfriend early, like as a teenager, right? Because then you'll have one and you're like, oh, okay, it's a woman, all right, she's a human, and I had sex with her and it was a bit bad because we both suck, and you'll learn some stuff, and then you'll be like, okay, that's a woman. Next time you're like, oh, she's a bit hotter than the last one, and then you have, oh, she's still a human, and okay. So, whereas the guys that really do get left behind because they're playing video games, because they're not in a mixed social circle, they went to a boys' school, they're super religious, they're awkward, and all the things that write them out of the sexual market early, can lead them into these situations where they are understandably frustrated, and to them, women, when they look at them on a mass, are in a way deliberately destroying their lives, like deliberately taking away the thing that everyone needs. But that's an interpretation that they might have of it. And then you have people getting into the space and saying, women are this. And I guarantee in the comments, if we get any views, that when there'll be some guy who says, yeah, that chick over there, she says, and that chick there says that she wants an honest guy, but women don't know what the fuck they want. They're just saying what they think they should say, and really they do want a liar. They do want a bad boy. I guarantee that's going to happen. What? You can't. I already know what you're going to say. I know everything about this. I've heard it all before. Ooh, go ahead and troll, dickheads.
I think you broke the game by making that statement.
I just broke the fourth wall of the trolls or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but you can see from their reality, there's a lot of different variations. There's a lot of very nice human beings who are ignored by women. And it's not women's fault, because a woman is attracted to who she's attracted to, but if someone's denying you the thing that you, or the entire gender is denying you what you need, then you'll either retreat into yourself and hate yourself, right, go black pill, And it's just like my looks are this. I'm a sub 5. I'm undateable. Okay, and then I go into this self-loathing thing, which eventually ends with you walking into a high school and shooting everyone or something, or taking your own life, or having a really awful time, and all the terrible things that happen to lonely men, which is certainly not as well known or talked about or dealt with than it should be. Or you'll project it back at the women, right? Which is that those fucking dumb sluts who only go for those alpha chads, and they love being lied to, and they love being used, and they go on the cock carousel, and they round and round, and all that stuff.
Yep.
Right, and then the only pleasure they get then is watching a woman fall. Yeah, like when she gets a bit chubby at 30. See, the wall is real, and she's like, well, at least I got to fuck along the way, because you've always been on the wall. And then we have the genders hating each other, right? And only components of them, because the people at the top, I love women. I'm having a great time with women, and there is absolutely a disparity in wealth, as there is in financial wealth, in the distribution of sex and love and care, but it's not men versus women. It's actually kind of class stratas within genders, and so then men have this. Their choices are give up, hate themselves, do the work, and it's a lot of work, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not fair, because if the guy's 5'4" and chubby and bucktoothed or whatever, and another guy's 6 foot and has a nice jawline, it's going to be 100 times easier to get good at this, right? It's not fucking fair, right? But too bad, because your choices are to, hate all women, hate yourself, or do the fucking work, right? And with me recognizing that it's not fair and you will have to do more work, but it is possible and it can be done, as proven by me teaching thousands of funny looking dudes of all various types over the last 15 years, and it actually working. So, but the easier thing is to go over to that and go, yeah, you fucking women, fucking, yeah, he's right. And that gives me a little feeling of superiority, and now I hate myself again.
I'm gonna go subscribe to the OnlyFans so I can feel better about myself and watch porn. And
well, yeah, then it comes down to, okay, people will do whatever proxy version of life that they can if they can't get real life.
Cheap dopamine.
Yep.
Brave new world, baby.
I think
But
that's
here I would also add, I think also we as a woman, we have to see the good qualities that the men have, because we're also brainwashed that, the man should have the money, he should have this and that. And it's not the qualities, because most of the girls, they're just seeking the man with a lot of money, who is stable, who is good, she can build family. But if you just see the right guy and you can build him on top of it, you can tell him, he can change his style, and you can educate him on something. Even if the sex wasn't good for the first time, you can tell him about it, and maybe next time it would be better. And if you see that he puts effort every time, then there's something to build on.
And then and I know there'll be guys like, why should we put all this effort, and why don't women have to put in any effort?
Both. It should come from both ends. Because the ship, your boat is not gonna go further if only one person is doing the work. It should be both to see bigger picture.
Right on. Guys, can we wrap it up?
Yep, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone. It was really fun and really insightful. And is there anything you'd like to share, like Instagram or something that you want other people to see, or you want to plug anything? Anyone?
My Instagram is my name,
Yeah.
Hadisha Savetova.
So we'll put your Instagrams in the description, and
Yeah.
You guys follow these amazing girls. They're very beautiful, and they're also very smart and very interesting. And James, do you want to plug anything?
Yeah, of course, I'm plugging stuff.
Yeah. Plug that shit, boy.
What am I trying to sell at the moment? Well, look, no, I mean, the Master Love Method course, the world's greatest and only 5-week online course for men who want to be incredible in bed, is closed. Too late. However, if you want to get on the wait list for when we reopen it, you can go to Master Lover. Oh, fuck. I'll put it on screen. Okay, not such a great marketer. There's a wait list for the next time we open it. We'll put it on screen.
Too drugged up for this.
Too whacked out on fucking passion flower extract. And if you want to come and work live with me, I'm running my seduction workshops next week. Too late. It'll already be over by this time that video comes out. The next one after that is in May in Barcelona. 7 days, rocking the streets with me and the crew, running around the streets, talking to the sexy ladies, learning how to pick them up, and all the cool stuff that we talked about today. And if you're a baller and you really want to know how to do the sex stuff like nobody's business, then go to thenaturallifestyles.com, check out the Sex God Masterclass. We hold it once a year right here in this house. 6 sexy ladies, 6 brave dudes, and I will teach you to become a beast in a week.
That's it.
That'll do.
Any word?
Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, maybe orgy.